Hey folks, welcome to another edition of Fitness Friday Posi-TIPS with Rachelle. Folks, we're on Fitness Friday. It is always the best day of the week. Gotta love it. Hey folks, it's great to be back. And I want to kick this episode off. It's actually going to be a story time episode. I'm going to do some teaching on this episode. This is going to be a very generous episode. So certainly get your notepads ready. And I want to kick off with something funny. Spent some time in Louisiana. And so my dad actually ordered this. And I said, this is so cute. See? I love it. Hopefully you can see it in the entire frame. It's huge, pretty big. But anyway, and so I saw it, it came, and I said, oh my gosh, that is so cute. Can I have it? And so they were like, yeah, go ahead and take it. And so, but anyway, I'm going to hang this up in Rachelle's home, in the lower level of Rachelle's home fitness center. But I thought this was so funny. U.S. Navy veteran and his commander-in-chief live here. And if you know my mom is just like the syrupy, sweet Southern belle that I used to be before I became a no-nonsense Northerner. But anyway, wanted to kick off with something funny. And folks, one other update before I get started here. The marketing follow-up episode, I know I promised before hiatus that I was going to table a follow-up, particularly regarding tonal, because as you may remember, I talked about this several months ago, but I'm doing a very deep dive on tonal, and they have had a shift in their marketing strategy. And so I planned on covering it then, but then I saw a shift, and then there's been another shift, because essentially what is going on with tonal, and I'm going to discuss this certainly in more detail. If not in the next 2 to 4 weeks, it will be later this summer. I'm just trying to gauge if I'm going to have enough content, or you know what I mean, in terms of the examples of the shift that I'll be able to share with you. But definitely what's going on with tonal is they've got a shift in their strategy to keep it short and sweet. You've got a very expensive elite product that is being marketed to the masses. You see there's a lot of YouTube advertising, there's a lot of certainly online advertising, some television, and so there's just a lot going on there. And so from a marketing standpoint, it is challenging to take an elite product and then make it certainly far more widely available to more people. But in terms of being more successful, you've got to do that. You've got to branch out from that elite positioning. And so it's just been very fascinating watching this all play out. I'm going to talk more about this. I'm going to give you some examples, of course. And so certainly stay tuned for that. Like I said, if not in the next 2 to 4 weeks, it will happen later this summer. But it's a lot. It is certainly a lot. And it's just exciting to see it all play out. Next, it's one of my favorite songs from back in the day is Boys to Men, It's So Hard to Say Goodbye. And I said goodbye, actually in the middle of May 18th was the official kind of end date of my participation in the MyPact study at Michigan Medicine, also known as the University of Michigan Health System Division of Clinical Research. I was a healthy volunteer in the MyPact study from April 30th, 2019 to May 18th, 2022. So it was a good run, very, very exciting, learned a lot. And so for those who don't remember, I talked about it when I first enrolled in the study. It's the Apple Watch study. The Apple Watch study, in which they are essentially comparing things like activity level, heart rate, blood pressure, and certainly correlating some of that data in addition to other data that they're able to glean from the watch to medical records, and just to say like, okay, well, this person has this activity level, this is what some of their vitals look like. At any point in the day, I'll remember I've worn my watch like constantly. And so I was in the healthy volunteer, heavily active category of research participants. So it was cool, was glad to do that. Going to continue to participate certainly in future studies moving forward. All right, folks, so let's get down to business. And this is one of these episodes where I tell you, sometimes it's not easy here on Fitness Friday, but I'm always guided by these principles. Number one, tell the truth and help people. And so what I want to do is give you a story time, tell you what happened. This is a teachable story time, certainly. Tell you what happened. You all remember you saw last week celebrated my 28th fitness anniversary last month. Was actually in Louisiana visiting when that happened, and I have not been in Louisiana on my fitness anniversary actually since I left when I moved to Miami for graduate school years ago. And so I was there. I mean, I knew earlier this year, because my dad had a doctor's appointment around that time, so I knew. I said, okay, this is going to be big. I'm going to be back in Louisiana. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. So I said, I know I've got to do something different. And I knew. I was like, you know what? I haven't been back here in all this time on a fitness anniversary. I need to have two things. And you all know what one of these two things is going to be. Pre-core EFX and a cool gym temperature in Louisiana. Now, of course, since I wasn't here, I mean, obviously, if I was in town, it would have been spent rocking it at my own gym, Edge Fitness in Farmington Hills. I wasn't here where I would have had a great workout, just no questions asked, very predictable, consistent workout experience. But I wasn't here. And so I was like, okay, you want to talk about fitness adversity over the years? Shreveport, Bossier City, Louisiana, it's just been a very big challenge, coming back and visiting and working out and all of this and that. So it has been a very big challenge. Another big challenging area for me, actually, a market or city that was an issue for me was Chicago, going back to Chicago, visiting Chicago, doing things in Chicago. But as you'll recall, and I actually pointed this out as soon as I got it in the mail on a Fitness Friday, but in 2018, I received this VIP pass from the Northwestern Alumni Association, which enables me to work out at our fitness centers when I'm in town, as long as I want, whatever this and that, as many times as I want. So this helped to solve a problem, but Shreveport, Bossier City, Louisiana fitness adversity remained. So I said, okay, this is gonna be different. I'm gonna do something. I just have gotta have these two things. Because that temperature piece in Louisiana, because again, I used to live there. I mean, I look back and marvel now. I mean, it's just so hot for months of the year. I mean, just oppressively hot. And I'm not used to that because I've lived up north for a long time. The 4 seasons, we may get some, a week or two during the summer where it's just unusually hot and whatever. So, I go back, and certainly from a fitness standpoint, oh my goodness, this has got to be different. This has got to be special. And it's not easy to find pre-core in that particular market. So from my own perspective, in terms of what I'm looking for and what I would be interested in from a fitness perspective, fitness facility perspective, I said I need to have these two things: pre-core, EFX, or AMT. Just, I wasn't being choosy in that market. Pardon me, just a nice cool temperature, because that temperature piece in the state of Louisiana is critical. Because, when I started out, May 17, 1994, the Barksdale Fitness Center, the old fitness center, which was an old B-52 flight hangar, folks. I mean, there was central AC, but those flight hangars are huge. And so, there was no fans. It used to be so hot in there. And so, and also too, I know the Air Force has this. I'm not sure about the other branches, but there's a concept called no heat, no cool. And so for certain times of the year, there's just no AC and there's no heat, and that's a cost savings, a cost containment measure that certainly the Air Force has, that I learned about early on during my fitness journey. So the temperature was always pretty consistently hot for most of the year. So I was conditioned starting out from day one with a hot gym. And so looking back now, and the fact that I've had a couple of other gyms that were just very, very hot in my history. It started early. My conditioning and my adaptability to deal with that started early. But I can tell you right now, I have zero interest in that these days. And so I see a shift. I can look back now in the last couple of years where I've just really moved in a different direction, away from adaptability in fitness, and where just, going to a facility, it is what it is. You deal with it, you power through it, bam. It was great, and I did that for a long time. But now what I want is consistency, and I have that. I certainly have that here in this area, here in Metro Detroit. Certainly, with Edge Fitness, had it before, with Bally Fitness, and before that, Bally Fitness from Novi, and then with Bally Fitness, just going back a few, years, not going all the way back to the beginning of my fitness journey, but certainly had it at the Ford Community and Performing Arts Center when I lived at Dearborn. Very, very consistent, temperature strong. Bally Fitness and Novi, great. Edge Fitness, Farmington Hills, wonderful. very, very consistent experiences. And so, gonna do something special. So I said, okay, there's two options for me to have both of those things that I want. It's gonna be the YMCA Bulletin and Anytime Fitness. Anytime Fitness. And so let me tell you about Anytime Fitness. So several years ago, when I just was getting kind of, like I said, it's been a long shift where I was kind of like, you know what, the newer Barksdale Air Force, the Brian Bell Fitness Center that I film in front of these days, that gym, several years ago, I just kind of woke up one day and was like, you know what, I cannot do this. It is too hot in here. They have these big industrial floor fans, that in the cardio section, and it's just not enough. But I'm just, again, just year after year, slowly moved away from that. I can see it now in retrospect. So these are my two options. So Anytime Fitness, when I was first starting to have this shift away from this, I can't do this anymore, I stepped into an Anytime Fitness in Shreveport. It was like, hey, I live in Michigan. This is the situation. I was actually a powerhouse at the time. This is my situation, and yada, yada, yada. And at that time, there were not, traditional visitor-friendly policies. So it was like, okay, well, this avenue's not going to work. Can't have a nice cool temperature. Can't have my Pre-Core EFX and AMT. So I said, okay, it is going to be the Bulletin Y. Bam, got a temporary membership. I said, okay, prepaid it up. Said, this is what I'm going to do. This is going to be special, whatever, yada, yada, yada. So paid up. And not to bury the lead, what I ended up doing was bailing early on that prepaid membership and going to another facility. But I want to tell you what happened. And for those of you know, particularly during story times, but just in general, I'm a highly detailed person. I'm very, very big on details. But on Fitness Friday, particularly if there's a situation that doesn't go well or doesn't end well, or I'm always coming from a position of honor and respect, even when something doesn't work out, even when something doesn't go well. And this episode is going to be another example of that, because when things don't work out, we always got to have that strength of character to still leave with honor and respect, and recognize that just some things aren't meant to be. So prepaid up that membership, yeah, it's going to be good to go, whatever, this and that. So I'm not going to be as detail oriented as I typically would be, but recognize, I'm going to give you the gist of the story and what happened, but I'm going to focus more on the back end of the lessons and key lessons learned, because again, I want to be respectful in this situation. So got this prepaid, okay, this is going to be great, whatever, worked out, this and that, yeah, okay. And so what happened? What was my trigger point? So again, I'm accelerating. I'm trying to move this story along quickly. So my trigger point was, and this is something that I learned about myself. See, folks, we got to be willing and we got to be open to learn about ourselves. Because what I recognized in that situation was that, that in that particular situation, the distractibility factor was very high. And I could not, at the end of the day, final analysis, I couldn't handle it. I could not handle it. And so, I've been in different gyms, and actually in different countries as well, and certainly in a number of different states and different gym types. And so, but this was a situation that was new for me, that was new for me. And let me tell you why. I've actually taken some notes to, again, keep me focused, keep me, again, so that way I'm not belaboring any points too long, out of respect for the situation. So, the special considerations in this particular situation, because again, when something doesn't work out, actually when we're coming to a situation before we realize, what's going on or what's going to happen, we always have to look at ourselves and say, okay, so what am I bringing to this situation? Like, what's going on with me, particularly from a leadership perspective? And that way we could say, okay, so I've got some biases, I've got this, I've got that, in addition to this situation. So, like I said, this was a new situation for me, and it really caused me to reflect on my fitness journey, to think about, what has happened and on all of this and that. So, let me begin by saying, I have the utmost respect for the Y in general. They've been around a long time. We all know about the YMCA. Wonderful entity across the country, and as I talked in 2020 and 2021 briefly about some of the struggles that our local Metro Detroit locations have faced, in which some locations actually closed due to the coronavirus pandemic. So they faced the same pressures and challenges other fitness entities did in terms of the pandemic. And so there were some special considerations when I talk about my distractibility factor, and just it was really high in this facility. Now I couldn't handle it, but I also, again, to be fair, to be balanced, I visited this facility before, but I learned, lesson for me, it's one thing to have a one-off visit. Again, this facility opened March or April of 2017. I remember going and visiting right after they first opened, when I was in town visiting. So it was a new lesson for me to say, okay, man, I cannot handle this. So, been open for a few years. Have to remember, what are some of the key considerations in this particular situation? Dealing with a nonprofit entity that relies on external funding sources, and in addition to, again, their own fees that they charge for their gym memberships and their youth sports programs and all of this and that. They host programs, people hold programs there as well. So, but they rely a lot on external funding sources in terms of generating, again, the operational revenues and all of that to be able to function. So when we think about the pandemic and the impact that it's had on the economy, and certainly some of the economic challenges we're having now, my assumption is that, again, that there's just some challenges there that are unique to this particular segment, this nonprofit segment. And I could not find evidence of there being an annual fee, an annual fee charge that many fitness entities charge now to buy new gym equipment, and that'll make more sense here when I get a little bit more into my story. So when we think about the COVID-19 pandemic and the impact, this sector has been impacted as well. Another important thing, a key consideration for this is they have scholarships available, to people who qualify. So again, just the impact on this particular facility on it's actually part of the Northwest Louisiana YMCA. It is just undeniable. I mean, it is a pillar in the community, a gem in the community that is undeniable. I recognize that, I honor that, and so it's important just to keep that in mind. But the challenges that I had, and why this kind of happened in terms of just my reaction to it, my challenges, again, what are some of my own key considerations that I brought to this situation? All right, such as, I can give you some examples. From a layout perspective, I am conditioned to very big gyms, very large gyms. All right, if I'm joining a gym, again, formally joining a gym, I prefer size. That's just kind of been my history. That's been my history, very large, spacious gyms. So I kind of brought that to the situation. So a key consideration in this particular case is we're talking about a fitness room in a large facility, and that's actually what it's called. You see it on the sign, fitness room. So again, somebody that is historically joined gyms, longer than, I'm at a hotel, that's what they call them there, right? Fitness rooms in a hotel. So if I'm at a hotel, a fitness room, okay, that's 2-3 days, maybe 4 or 5 days max. All right, so, but that's, again, that's a very temporary situation. So, but that's just the structure of hotels. It is what it is. And there's typically maybe one or two in my history, one or two, other people may be in those smaller fitness rooms in hotels. And I've actually, my history, particularly the national chain hotel, very, very well spaced, organized, highly organized, even though they're small fitness rooms. So no problem with that. So, but the layout in this area, so I'm not talking about their group fitness classrooms. I'm talking about the main fitness room, where I was. And so we had cardio, weights, TRX, and there was a free space area, so a smaller area, free space area. And so, very novel concept. So they actually had 2 fitness rooms. So I'm talking about the main fitness room where I was, and they had a second fitness room. It was actually a CrossFit room. And so this fitness room where I was, kind of hard to describe, but I'm going to do my best. And so you walk into the main door of the Y. So you walk in, there's this huge lobby, huge spacious lobby. And then you walk in a little bit, and this fitness room that I'm talking about is on your right-hand side, heading straight back towards, there's some restrooms further down on the left, and then there's this huge pool that just kind of dead ends into the pool at the end. So But on this fitness room where I was, there's no door. All right, so it's just a wide open area in terms of people walking by and this and that. And so another key consideration is in this situation, there was no music. There was no music playing in this smaller fitness room. Now, in one Friday morning, I remember hearing some music coming out of what wasn't on long out of this CrossFit room. It was about Friday around 8 a.m. I remember I was in there one morning and I heard some music because I remember I moved where I was and tried to get closer to that music to drown out the fact that there was no music and all the sounds in the background. And so also keep in mind my consideration, if you see me in a gym, I always have earbuds in. Always. So I always have my own music going on and this and that. So it just historically it's never been an issue. And in hotel fitness rooms, we know typically they don't play music, so it's quiet in there. But again, there's typically, if there's somebody in there, one or two other people in my own experience, I'm going to different hotels over the years, but there was no music in this situation. And so for me, it was loud. It was loud. So what you had was, and you had another consideration of mine. You had low ceilings. So you had a very small, it was just comparably speaking, it's a tighter area because, and I agree with them, I agree with that, having that CrossFit. I mean, there's a huge competitive advantage for the Y to have that CrossFit area, that separate fitness room. And so, so instead of kind of having cardio being one section and then having the weights and that, where that CrossFit room was to separate the two, certainly from a noise perspective. No, that was very wonderful, very, very progressive and forward thinking, where they're thinking, hey, we're going to make this a CrossFit room. Wonderful, bam, totally agree with that. I'm not a CrossFitter, but I think it's a wonderful thing. So I'm just trying to be fair and balanced and provide context. So no music, it's wide open. So you hear conversations going on with people walking down the hallway. You hear people talking and right there in the fitness room. And again, these low ceilings, so we think about the sound. If you have higher ceilings, and certainly if you have music on in a facility, that will drown out a lot of that noise. So you have people talking, you have people walking by talking, and then and them not playing music, I understand from that perspective, because at 9 a.m. when you have Caterpillar school buses dropping off children, and I'm assuming they were going to swim, and so you have these line of little kids that are passing right by the fitness room. So if music is playing, it's a Christian organization, and so I'm sure there's a question of, well, what kind of music do you play? And then you have people that could possibly be offended by various types of music. So I mean, I understand the position, and music is just kind of controversial with gyms anyway, because this person wants this kind of music, this person wants that kind of music, and this person thinks the music's too loud, this person thinks the music's too low, just whatever. The music is a very big challenge in fitness facilities in general, but this one has no music. And so I'm just giving the context and providing that information to say there was no music, and so it was very, very, you just hear a lot. You hear a lot. And so you have people dropping weights, you can hear that. You can hear the clinking, of selectorized weight machines. And so there's 2 or 3 of the machines, again, I'm not going to go in detail, where some light maintenance would have been beneficial in that situation. So that's just all I'm going to say. So you could hear that, and not only when you're on the machine yourself, but you could hear other people when they're getting off and on those machines. And then there's some cardio machines that could use some light maintenance, because when people are getting on machines and you hear them, you could hear them revving as they're going. And so all of these noises, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what is this? And it was like day after day after day. And there's a lot of people that were in there with just no headphones, just no earbuds, nothing, no AirPods. They're gone. There's no problem. But for me, and again, I always have my own music on, but what that forced me to do was turn my volume up. I guess higher than I've ever had it, because I was getting alerts. This was a new experience for me. I'm getting alerts on my Apple Watch. And then when I'm changing music and stuff, volume should be turned down. Have any of you seen that? Have any of you seen that message that pops up? Volume should be turned down. And I'm thinking, like, what is this? And then, I press the crown on the watch, whatever. And I'm thinking, okay, this message isn't going away. How you just try to dismiss it, whatever. I'm like, okay, whatever. And so I recognized that I was turning my music up super loud to try to drown out all of that, just, people talking loud. people just doing this, and people talking on their cell phones. I mean, it was a lot, again, because it was in a tight area with no music and low ceilings. So you could hear a lot. You could hear a lot. Even with me, I heard a lot, even over my own music. So I had to turn my music up. And I was getting these alerts. And just, again, to fast forward this story, to not belabor this particular point, certainly out of respect, but I woke up one day and I was like, you know what? I can't do this. Keep in mind that, again, I prepaid for this and whatever, and I was like, you know what? I can't do this. And so this was leading up to my fitness anniversary. So I'm sitting here thinking, like, oh my goodness, I had planned this out, this is going to be great, whatever, and now I'm in a situation where I don't know what I'm going to do. I know I can't come, I know I can't keep, coming here, because it's just too much, it's just too much for me, all this background noise, and it just, again, do I compromise my hearing? I'm getting alerts telling me my volume should be turned down, and I don't want to turn the volume down, because it's just, again, some people can handle all this constant chatter and noise and talking and clinking of machines and dropping. Again, these are normal things that happen in gyms. I'm aware of that, I acknowledge that, but see, again, what are some of the biases that I brought into this situation based on my own experience? I'm used to very spacious gyms that are with high ceilings, that are very well spaced, and so I'm not hearing all that. And noise, they're very minimal noise. People talk in gyms all the time, it's not a problem. People talk on their cell phone in gyms, not a problem. People talk to each other in gyms, on the machines, not a problem. But if the spacing is right, and there are certainly high ceilings, it makes a difference. And music on in the background, that it just drowns a lot of that out. And certainly, one of the key takeaways that I'm going to talk about here at the end that I forgot to mention, but I challenge you to do this. If you want to know where things stand in terms of how your machines, in terms of any potential maintenance issues, there's a key learning from this is to turn that music off and see where walk around and see what you hear. Because I was thinking to myself, and I never would have kind of pieced this together like this, but I said, you hear a lot. You walk around with no music on, you can hear a lot, and I certainly did. So I woke up, was like, this is not going to work. So I got to find that solution. I got to figure something out. I still want my pre-core EFX or ANT and my cool temperature. Okay, so that left one option. That left one other option. So what did I do? Again, to move this story along quickly, went back into that same Anytime Fitness that I went to several years ago and said, hey, this is my situation. Live in Michigan, member of Edge Fitness, it's a wonderful chain. This is my situation. I'm here. This is what I want. This is what I want. And this is something that I have never had in this market at that time in the last 27 years. Hadn't hit my fitness anniversary yet. I need pre-core and I need a cool temperature. And I know from years ago and just passing by this particular location, I just know it's still there, it's still cool, and whatever, And so I said, this is what I need. This is very important to me. My fitness is very important to me, and that's all I need. In this particular facility, I want to visit it, whatever. I need this. This is very, very important to me. And so, unlike before, there are now visitor-friendly policy, visitor-friendly policy. And so I bailed. So I left that. There was still time left. There were still days left on that prepaid membership I had at the Y, and went to Anytime Fitness. And it just it was nice. It was cool. I had my pre-core. It was great. It was great. And so there's a lot of different lessons and all of that. But the reason why I want to point this out. And then we're gonna shift now here into some of the key learnings here. I've got a few listed, but the importance of being open. The importance of being open and just saying, okay, so what are my options here? What are my options here? Louisiana, the state of Louisiana, from a fitness perspective, it's a heavily private-owned facility / franchise market in that area. And actually, I talked about this years ago, and I'm not gonna, go through all of this again, but I talked about this years ago. It was back when I was at Powerhouse with Anytime Fitness in the state of Louisiana. I mean, they have a large number of locations. That's a stronger market for Anytime Fitness. They have a lot of locations in that state. And part of the reason for that, and I talked about this, like I said before, is after Hurricane Katrina in 2005, Anytime Fitness remained committed to continuing to expand in that state despite, the hurricane situation, And so one thing you have to realize about the state of Louisiana, from the fitness perspective, potential in the southern part of the state, particularly Baton Rouge, the capital, Baton Rouge, a lot of potential there. And so you see whether you're corporate, from corporate chain locations there to, expanding fitness chains that are launching in the state of Louisiana will start out in Baton Rouge. And so potential there, but the flip side of that is there's a lot of vulnerability, a lot of market vulnerability, because from year to year you could get tropical storms, depressions, hurricanes, category 5 hurricanes like Hurricane Katrina that will put your facility or facilities out of commission for months, or could even just totally demolish the facility. There's a lot of risk, there's a lot of vulnerability in that market. So as such, there's very, very low corporate fitness chain penetration, understandably, in that market, because there's just so much risk, so much uncertainty. So it's a lot of privately owned facilities and franchise chains such as Anytime Fitness. And so I went down there with my plan, and I was, okay, here's what it is, it's gonna be the why, it's gonna be great, but that didn't work out. And so I had to be open enough to say, okay, so what are my other options in this area? I still want this. I still want my pre-core. And I still want a cool temperature. And folks, I had plan B, I had plan C, I had plan D. Like, okay, so if this one doesn't work out, then I'm going to talk to the manager of the Hampton Inn and say, hey, can I use your facility for a day? And I had it all planned out, and so, but you've got to be open. You got to be open. I've never been a member of Anytime, don't have a membership now, but I was just very open in that situation. What are my options? Because if we have tunnel vision and it's got to be a certain way and we have our plan, I used to be years ago, but particularly in grad school, I remember at Northwestern, here's my life plan. This is how the next 30 years are going to go. And I look back now, and this is funny to me now. It's wonderful, again, to have a vision, that, flexible, but recognize that life's going to happen, things are going to happen, that are not in accordance with that plan. And we've got to be open enough and adaptable enough to just say, okay, here's what it is. We're still going to move forward, we're still going to make progress and make things happen. But this is a situation now as it is, because life happens, things change, such as the coronavirus pandemic. All right, many people had fitness in terms of facilities. Okay, we had visions, people had expansion plans and strategies and all of that, and the coronavirus put brakes on a lot of that. So see, again, life happens, things happen. So, but I had to be open. So what are my options in this situation? And number 2 to that is I had to be willing. This is a big one, not just for Fitness Friday, but this will be, if I was still doing my non-fitness Friday Posi-TIPS, this will be a big one as well. This is a huge life lesson, huge one, folks, that we gotta embrace. The willingness to admit that we are wrong or we made a mistake, all right, or something isn't working out, I guess I should say. I have no regrets in that situation. Like I told you, I still think very highly of the why, just not just in that location, but nationally, I still think very highly, very, very highly. It's just, that was a situation that I always compartmentalize and say, hey, I still have the utmost respect for that facility. It works well for a lot of people. It didn't work out well for me. Their impact on that market is huge and undeniable. And so from youth sports to just programming, community programming, they do a lot, and I'm glad that they are there. But I had to admit, this isn't working. And I think for me, it kind of took, the noise and all that, was just, for me personally, just irritating and frustrating and just whatever. But it was getting the alerts that volume should be turned down, day after day when I'm there, and I'm getting these messages every day, like, okay. That for me was like, okay, Rachelle, you need to bail on this situation. Like, this isn't working out for you. You're like, yeah, you're here for fitness, you're taking care of your fitness, but then now your hearing is taking a hit in this situation. So being willing to admit that we're wrong, when it may cost us some money, like me, I had to leave who cares? I had to leave some prepaid days on the table for that. Who cares? Sometimes it may cost you money, it may cost you, You know, you may think people may talk about you or your reputation or how will this look or what will people say. Who cares? Who cares? All right, yes, that type of thinking is certainly pervasive in high school. We all dealt with it. We all had it. We want to fit in. We don't want people to think badly of us and whatever. What will people say? You know, I just kind of want to be well thought of at all times. Well, that's just not going to happen because life, people are going to judge us. People will say what they want to say. Like, who cares? This is just a fitness example, folks, but this is a huge issue for people. There are people watching this episode right now that are in bad situations, or perhaps multiple bad situations, that are stuck, to borrow from the vernacular, or that are stuck like Chuck, worrying about what somebody's going to say or think, knowing you need to make an exit in a situation. But you're sitting there like, oh, what will people say? What will people think? What will this cost me? You know, your happiness and your fulfillment and your joy in life, folks, is very important. And that always requires us to make decisions, sometimes tough decisions. So I had to be clear in the fact that I was wrong. You know, I made a mistake in that situation. Whoops, I tried it. Long term, it's one thing, like I said, to go and visit just offhandedly one time or, you know, 2 times and whatever, you know, with multiple days apart. But subsequent visits like that, where it's just the same thing for me personally, day after day with all that noise, it was just too much. Next, be clear about what you deserve in life. And I go back to the marketing episode where I highlighted, you know, Edge Fitness, you know, discover the gym you deserve. Discover the gym you deserve. And again, it showed you Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how that goes all the way up to self-actualization at the top of that hierarchy of needs. And how that just, you know, that's a huge thing for me in life in general. And then when I saw that from a fitness perspective, I was like, yes, that is so true. That is absolutely, you love it. All right, you just recognize, folks, in life, you've got to believe you deserve good things. You've got to believe you deserve to be happy. You've got to believe you deserve to be, in my situation, just again, based on my own preferences, idiosyncrasies, okay? Like, I don't want to hear a bunch of clinking and loud talking and people talking to me next to me on their cell phones. That was just too much. Like, I need space, I need high ceilings, I need, you know, there's just certain things. Like, yes, I need my nice cool temperature that I have here. Yes, I need my Pre-Core EFX, and in addition to other machines with the wonderful breadth of cardio that I have. But at the end of the day, folks, I had to believe I deserved better in that situation. And again, let me be very clear in that situation. You know, again, we all have preferences, we all have idiosyncrasies. So that type of situation and situations like it, a lot of people love that. That works for them. That's wonderful. That's great. But what I'm saying is, it didn't work for me. You know, there's just, we all have differences in terms of what we like, what we don't like, what works for us, what doesn't work for us. But what we've got to do is honor ourselves and value ourselves enough, have enough self-respect to say, this isn't working for me. It may be working for 5,000 other people or 550 people right now, or whatever the case in any type of situation, whether it's a company with 5,000 employees, whatever. This isn't working for me. It may be working wonderfully for all these other people, but this isn't working for me, folks. But we have to, there's got to be a root of deservingness. We've got to know deep down that we deserve good things in life, deserve to be happy, deserve to be fulfilled. You deserve, in my situation, just deserve to have a nice workout. That was a very humbling experience, folks. I'm telling you, I've never experienced anything like that. It was just too much for me personally, but it works well for a lot of people, and that's great and good for them. Next, adversity comes to all of us. All right, if there's something you've heard me say on these Fitness Fridays ad nauseum, particularly in the last couple of years with the start of the pandemic, is 2+ years now, is adversity comes to all of us. Adversity comes to all of us. Life happens, things change, but these are the experiences that grow us, that help to develop our character, that test us, that help us to really test and prove what we're really made of. All right, so in that situation, I could have said, okay, well, this didn't work out, so oh well, I guess it wasn't meant to be for me to just work out or just have a special, you know, have my preferences and my wants and my desires met in this situation, in this market where it's harder to find, No, folks, I had plan A, I had plan B, I had plan C, D, and E. And even there was a plan of, okay, so if I've got to drive to Ruston, or if I've got to drive to Monroe, some cities that are not closed but fairly, and get there in an hour, hour and a half. If I got to drive somewhere to have a nice 28th fitness anniversary, since I wasn't here to have it in my own gym, I had a plan. All right, but there was a time where just kind of tunnel vision and gotta make it work. Gotta make it work. How many of you are watching this right now, telling yourself, "I gotta make it work. This situation isn't working for me. This situation is miserable. I'm unhappy, but I gotta make it work. I gotta make it work. Gotta make it work." And you're miserable. You're waking up every day dreading whatever it is, dreading life, hating life. You deserve better than that. You deserve better than that. But adversity comes to all of us in all shapes, forms, and fashion. And that's one of the key lessons from the pandemic and that's certainly an enduring lesson. Adversity comes to all of us. There was no one that was spared in that situation, in the pandemic. In fitness facilities in particular, and fitness entities, all types were impacted by the pandemic. So adversity comes to all of us. Here's another key lesson. This is about to be some very, very, very generous insight. Now, I've never discussed this topic on a Fitness Friday, but I'm going to discuss it now. All right, and so this story time kind of gave me the context because, I'm generous, but, I just can't be too generous on these episodes. And so I tend to provide you some insight, but I'm not foolish. Let me give you 7 ways to double your membership in the next 5 years. That's not going to be an episode. That's just not happening. That's far too generous. But I do share insights that will help you to draw that conclusion if you're really paying attention. So this next key learning is this. This is a big one. This is a big one. And again, remember, you've heard me mention a few times over the last 2 or 3 years that from 2017 to 19, I did some perception research in the fitness industry, specifically regarding fitness facilities across the country, facilities of all types, by reviewing online reviews. This one right here, this point I'm about to make, is a big one in the fitness industry. This is a controllable issue. So again, I don't have my SWOT analysis with me today, but we think about the top of it: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Okay, strengths and weaknesses are internal. Opportunities and threats are external. So strengths and weaknesses are controllable. And so this next one is, and I alluded to it when I made my comments about some of the things that kind of drove me crazy in that situation. But from a maintenance perspective, hear me and hear me well, ladies and gentlemen. If you are solely relying on members to tell you when there are issues with equipment, I challenge you to rethink that. Rethink that strategy. Because people are people. People are people. People will get on a machine, it's making all kind of noise, they don't care, they're just trying to get in there and work out and leave. All right, and so I just challenge you from a maintenance perspective, just consider, what's going on. Are you relying on members solely? Because there's highly likely there's some issues you could be missing. All right, and so in a situation where, again, whether it's staff, whether it's management, or somebody that's working out, that's on machines regularly, that individual or set of individuals would hear that. If you're on and off machines and whatever, or like I said, that tip earlier, turn the music off. When the gym's busy, you walk around those machines, you walk around that cardio, you walk around the selectorized weight machines and see and hear and listen. You will hear something's not right. Okay, let me make a note, whatever. And so perhaps, yes, rely on members, yes, because you're going to have a segment of the population, membership population, that will tell you, but you're going to have a segment of the population that will not tell you. That will not tell you. I mean, that's just human. That's just human nature. I mean, we're talking about human beings. We're all imperfect, whatever this and that. So no one's perfect. No situation is perfect. So perhaps a hybrid method would be cool. Where yes, you're relying on member input, but also there's some work on from the staff end to kind of investigate and see what's going on, what's happening, this and that, because when there's no music, like I said, that's one of the biggest lessons in learning and key learnings and takeaways that I got from this is to turn that music off. You will hear it all. You will hear it all. You will hear it all. And so for me, like I said, I had to compensate and turn my music up real loud, and then I'm getting these alerts telling me I need to turn my volume down, and so I bolted. I bolted from that situation. I bailed at the end of the day, and folks, and so I want to close with this. Like I said, I am purposely not giving very detailed information. All right, I just out of respect for the situation, I'm not going into all of that, what the sounds were and what machines it was, and what machines it was. Pardon me. We're not going to do that. I'm not doing that on this episode. I'm always coming from a position of honor and respect, and I'm going to continue to do that. And so, but I want to leave you with this: a powerful visual. And when I first came back home, I'm going to hang these downstairs in Rachelle's home fitness center in the lower level, like I always do. I've got little key cards and stuff for my history. I'm going to start doing that, every time. But so I wanted to leave you with this visual, folks, because I was in a situation where I was visiting an area, happened to be visiting an area where my official fitness journey started 28 years ago. All right, so I was back. But I want to leave you with this visual, folks, because like I told you, this issue, in particular, let me just point this out separately. The maintenance issue came up time and time again across fitness facility types across the country. All right, so this is an issue, this is a controllable issue that is definitely something that needs to be, just kind of mindfully monitored, because there's a lot of complaints across, like I said, all different types of facilities. And that is a controllable issue. All right, people talking on their cell phone. Again, I can go back before I close here. Let me just digress here for a minute. So people talking on their cell phones, whatever. The people are going to do that. They're human. They're talking loudly on their cell phones. They're talking loudly to one another. That's what people do, okay? We're human, whatever. All right, and so those are uncontrollable. You can't control those, all right? But machines clinking and cardio machines making noises upon start loudly, and then of course having sustained noise, those are all controllable. All right, that's a controllable issue. All right, so just recognize, control. You've heard me say it a gazillion times. This isn't a new concept. All right, I used to hear it all the time in the corporate world. Sales managers, sales directors, sales VPs, they all said it. Control what you can control. Control what you can control, folks. Because based on this issue, this controllable issue, we have what happened to me. This whole story time theme is happening thousands of times a day across this country. Right? You have people leaving facilities, bailing on memberships, canceling memberships, saying, I can't deal with this. I'm going to another gym, I'm getting a Peloton bike, I'm getting a tonal, I'm getting this, I'm getting that, I'm switching gyms so I can train with this person or this person, whatever. But just attrition, member attrition. And I'm giving you this example because, again, this is a temporary situation. Again, I had a temporary membership, this happened, and it's reflective of something that happens constantly. And I want to leave you with a visual. Yes, I'm giving you the verbal story time, folks, but what started out my plan was right here. This is my key card for the why. Again, I have the utmost respect. I'm so glad I went. I'm glad it happened. I learned a lot about myself. That experience taught me a lot. And so there are many people that are joining your facility, again, on a more permanent basis, obviously, that are joining your facility saying, yep, this is going to be it. It's going to be cool. And bam, at the end of the day, they bail on you. They bail on you. And this is actually a key fob for any time. So I'm going to be hanging these up downstairs as part of my fitness journey. Very memorable, important part of my fitness journey because I learned a lot. Like I said, I had to make some decisions. I had to be assertive. I had to try again. Where a long time ago, actually right before I got a temporary membership, was so grateful for that temporary membership at Bel Air Fitness in Bossier City, Louisiana. I had just left that same Anytime, so I had to go back to that same gym and try again. That was where I wanted to be a long time ago, and for it to happen, I made it happen in 2022, folks. And so this is an experience that I want you to visibly see what happens. You know, I left quietly. Again, Tim remembers, like, I don't care. I didn't care about that situation. I just bailed and left and went where I wanted to be and where I felt I deserved to be based on my own experiences and preferences. All right, but there are people that are doing this every single day, and you don't know why, because they're canceling and not saying a word. They're bailing, whatever. They're bailing and taking their family with them if they got family memberships or you know, whatever. And I just want to leave you a visual of again, thinking about controllable weaknesses and strengths versus non-controllable. Just control what you can control, but I wanted to make this point profoundly clear by sharing this story time. This was a difficult, I've struggled with this one because I'm thinking, okay, this is a situation that's not really pretty. It's just not. But again, my two principal values of telling the truth and helping people always win the day. Okay, because I want you to think about, you think about member attrition, why are people leaving? Why do people leave? What happened? Whatever, this and that. And people often don't tell you why. And based on, like I said, my perception and opinion research, there's some issues and there's some controllable issues, and so it's just, yes, one last time, control what you can control. Because you don't want people canceling, and you just, why are people leaving? Well, we lost X number of members last month. What's going on? All right, and when that competitor opens up down the street, people are bailing. And you're like, why? What happened? And so that's just all I want to share, folks. I had a remarkable, because I was willing to make that change, I had a remarkable experience. And one lesson that I didn't have on this list, and it just occurred to me, pardon me, because it's taking a little bit longer than I thought, but I want to be fair and I want to be balanced, but I want to make sure to convey these important points, is, folks, we've got to have the strength of character to give credit where credit is due. We have to be, I can't sit here and again, because I'm not a member of Anytime Fitness, and say, well, okay, well, I'm not talking about this because, I'm not a member and I'm not giving them credit. No, I'm not a member, but am I grateful that they rescued in that situation? They rescued me in that situation. Absolutely. So we've got to be willing to give credit, folks, where credit is due, and just express gratitude and recognition when it is so merited. When it was so merited. I'm grateful for the flexibility, when visitors coming in and that didn't exist when I tried, a few years ago. I'm grateful for that experience. I'm grateful that I had on a Tuesday morning where I filmed that short episode and I left there and went to the gym. I'm grateful that I had what I wanted and what I felt I believed I deserved in that situation. I'm just grateful for that experience, and I'm grateful that they were there for me. All right, I have a wonderful gym here in Michigan. I'm just very, very pleased with Edge Fitness, but also, again, gotta have the strength of character to say, hey, again, like I talked about a long time ago, I don't live my life as a zero-sum game. All right, I used to, but I'm grateful for all fitness entities. I'm grateful for all individuals that compassionate individuals that helped me, or that gave me a break or allowed me to visit. There's several I could name over all of these years, but I'm grateful for each and every person. I'm grateful for the Y, that they gave me an opportunity to have a temporary membership in that situation. So I'm just grateful. But I've got to be fair, and I've got to be balanced, and I've got to be willing to give credit where credit is due, wherever that credit deserves to be given. Right? There's no threat to anything that I have going on when I recognize other entities other than my own. And so that's just a life lesson, folks. We've got to be willing to recognize other people and entities and give people credit where credit is due. Right? It may be another department, that is really shining, and you recognize them. They help you out. Show them gratitude, folks. We've got to be willing, got to have the basic sense of character to be able to do that, folks. So before I sign off here, giving you one last visual. Don't let people bail on you. Just do your best. Yes, are you going to have natural member attrition? Absolutely. But just make sure you're controlling the controllables. Folks, that is all I have for you today. I cannot wait until next week. So stay tuned for that. We're going to talk about some fitness trends. But until then, remember, I am positively passionate about your fitness, success, and leadership. Make it a great